In times of uncertainty, the well-being of your loved ones becomes your top priority.
Days of heavy rains across the southern state of Rio Grande do Sul, triggering massive floods.
Mandatory evacuations are in place in areas around Houston, Texas, as a major river there quickly rises.
And when the world feels unpredictable, MonkeyWorksPrep.com is here to help you secure peace of mind. Through our affiliate program with My Patriot Supply, MonkeyWorksPrep.com provides you with the supplies to prepare for any situation. From long-term food supplies to smaller prepping kits, you will have everything you need to take care of your family. Because knowing you're prepared is more than just planning. It's about spending time without worry, knowing your loved ones are taken care of. Visit MonkeyWorksPrep.com today.
All right. Hey, welcome, folks. Mil-Spec House Monkey here. It's going to be your SITREP. It's 7/25/2024. Coming to you live here from the Monkey Lounge in the great state of Texas as we get into the deets here. Going to start off in Skyglass. We're going to talk about this whole cat and mouse thing because it is starting to escalate to a point where things could go south pretty quickly. All it just takes is somebody to have a little bit of an itchy trigger finger and it's game on, like Donkey Kong. So pay close attention to that. We're also going to look at some data points relative to old Flashbang. What is going on with him? I listened to his speech that he gave, and I will tell you, it lacked the gaffes. So I'm really thinking this is all an act. Homeboy's getting ready to sail off into the sunset. He's got his presidential library funds going to be kicking in, plus all the other stuff and schemes that he has done with, just... You guys know what he's been doing. We've been watching it. So let me get us over to the mini as we kick off the deets. So first up, we got Skyglass. I'm sitting at around 234 aircraft up. These are military aircraft only that you see on the screen. One thing I did want to show you was just notice that they seem to trickle on down here to the USVI. Yeah, we get the occasional C-17 down there as well. I think this right here is going to be their go-to when things go hot here. All right. But let's just break it in. We've got the trainers, about 125 or so I've stripped out. It's a pretty busy training day. Let's look at H-60 Blackhawks. This is all going to be training assets here. Let me add that FFAB call sign to my watch list. I don't know why they just inadvertently pop in. Up here, DC, Northeast, very active and busy, but 35 is a pretty elevated number. Break away from that. Let's get into the air refuelers, and you can see 26 KC-135s, and let me go down to 10 more. So we got 36 total. That's slightly elevated. 25 is actually about where we see 19, 20, up to about 25 on a regular basis. So pretty active. And that's just because, folks, we are in that up tempo of, well, you'll see it here in just a minute. Look at this, banana copters, right? Your Chinooks, 11 of those currently up. You can see quite a few here on our screen. 8 of them are here in the U.S. The rest are over in the U.K. But that is just, these are ones you watch because they are going to be some of your logistics, transport stuff, moving things around the country. When you start to see those, at least this is what I'm told, when you start to see those go really high, you need to get your body armor on because things are about to go hot. So that's what I've been told. We'll see what happens. Going to look at the balloons. They are yet again on the move. Matter of fact, let's just jump over to that real fast. As you will see here, out over the northwest, headed out towards the water. That remember, we had this little grouping that was over the manufacturing site. I believe they were getting some type of an upgrade. And then, of course, you can see them now on the move as well, spurting back out, okay? And then let's see here. We got some of the agency assets on the move. I see some E3s. That's an air refueler off the East Coast, a third-party air refueler. And then a little NASA asset there. Let's get over to Europe. A little slow over there today in terms of what we're seeing. I've got we got a little low altitude drone there. Looks to be over the tip of Denmark. And then I see a couple C-17s and an E3. All right. Now, Let's do this. We talked balloons for just a minute. Let me just show you the scatter pattern and where they're headed. This is the last 3 days. They look to be one's headed up over Canada, which I find interesting, or right to the border. And then you can see these others that are headed out over the Pacific. And then you see broken traces, 3 of them headed down to the southern side of the United States, right along maybe towards the border. Again, these are DoD assets. They used to be called Google balloons. They're now called Thunderbolt, and it's Mill Intel. That's all they're doing. They're gathering data, everything they can snatch up from cars, where they're going, probably reading license plates and registrations, tracking phones, anything that's being transmitted through your phones. They're doing it all right? And they're not even hiding it anymore, okay? All right, that's going to be your watch list and the balloons. Now, let's look at the intel. This is intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance. Again, they're kind of circling this particular area. I don't know what's out there, but they are certainly trying to figure it out too, all right? Okay, and then, of course, a sea of intelligence flights around Kaliningrad, looking at Belarus very closely, down to Constanta, over the Black Sea. You can see stuff going on right here. That's looking closely at Serbia and Kosovo. Serbia is pro-Russian. And then, of course, you can see the flights over Israel. You expect to see that given what's happening there right now and has been happening. And then down into Southeast Asia. All right. Okay, now let's talk sub-hunters. And just notice the left coast out over the Pacific Northwest. A little bit of traffic. Most of the stuff over the United States is kind of normal, standard stuff. You can see the flurry coming out of Jacksonville Naval Air Station. Little blip down there into the Gulf of Mexico. You can see some things into the interior of the United States. You get over to Europe, that's where it gets really interesting. You can see this is more than likely a P-8, Navy P-8, rolling back and forth between Malta and Constanta. We'll look at the airport in Constanta. You'll see a significant uptick in terms of traffic, military-wise. And then out off the coast of Africa, south of Portugal. Now, I do see this little blip coming out of Georgia or going into Georgia, landing in Saudi Arabia, and then also going into Bahrain. And then you'll see a flurry of activity out over the Persian Gulf too, right? Remember, sub-hunters, but these things have so many other capabilities. All right, as do most of our military assets. The things they can do, oh, mercy. General populace doesn't even have a clue what they do, really. All right, now look at this down south of Australia. That looks to be normal. Let's talk here about the drones. Q4, Q9. Q9 is going to be the one border patrol up there at, or border protection, whatever you want to call it, up there on the Canadian border. And then you can see out over the Baltic Sea, north of Denmark, and then you can see a Q4 drone, high altitude Q4 drone, doing a lot of work there, looking closely into Belarus, into Russia, etc. And then you can see low altitude out over the Mediterranean. That's looking at ships, more than likely looking for, you know, any type of military assets that are moving within that region or being disguised into that region, right? Like Club Ks, okay? And then I see little blips there over the Persian Gulf, right, where we see the sub-hunters. And then very active over Japan. But again, drones, they are always doing that, all right? Okay, let's talk E6 for a minute. One thing that has changed, notice the left coast, this is TACAMO, take charge, move out. Navy platform, talking to your ICBMs, all right? Airborne Command, Looking Glass, they call it a lot of different names. Notice off the East Coast, off the left coast, and then where it's not, Gulf of Mexico. Did an asset move from there? And then let's take a look at the AWACS, right? Remember, advanced warning. So this is looking at nukes, right? Potential nukes, trying to make sure they're not there. Just notice down towards the Pacific, Southern Pacific, notice running right across the southern border. And that was tongue-in-cheek there, folks. That is our real border, is the Canadian border, because the true southern border is slap wide open. It doesn't even apply anymore. Off the East Coast, down along the Atlantic there. The one down in the Gulf of Mexico is interesting because it just jumps down towards kind of that peninsula there near Cancun. And then, of course, we've got over France. You expect to see that, especially because of the Olympics, Summer Olympics going on there right now. And so you're going to be looking at probably some nuke sniffers over that region also. And then, down under in Australia. All right, R135s. This is your nuke sniffer. Just notice it comes out of Lincoln, heads to Oklahoma, and then notice the one out of Caracas headed down. That's where the Russians have gone, okay? And the reason why we're out there, I'll show you some NOTAMs too. We got exercises going on out there too. So it looks like we're, once again, the whole cat and mouse thing. We'll get into that here in a minute too. We are poking the bear and they are poking the eagle, so to speak. All right. Let's just get into the deets. First and foremost, let's talk air refuelers. Wait, I showed you the abundance of them over the United States today, currently, right? Elevated number as always, not as high as it was last time we checked in a couple of days ago, which we were almost at 50. Okay. But check this out. All right. This is just going to be last 3 days, air refuelers. Notice the flurry of activity off the left coast down into the southern Pacific side of the House of California towards Baja, up the left coast. You'll see some transitions up to Alaska. Look, they just finished an exercise there, so that's probably bringing assets back. But just notice, boom, out straight to the border, just like the AWACS, just like everything else we're seeing that's testing the southern border. See the transitions across the drink. Again, another indicator we're moving fighters off to Europe. And then you'll see some moves there over to Terceira Island. That's a U.S. Air Force base. So more than likely, we've got some tankers that are stationed out there. And then you can see the marshalling points across the northern points of Europe. And then, of course, down into the Middle East, probably refueling stuff going in and out of both Syria and Iraq. And then very, very active over Japan down to Okinawa. Okay. Who knew when you're watching the show, you'd get such a geography lesson, right? This is amazing how we are learning about all these different countries and everything else as we watch our military just kind of spread itself very thin around the world. So kind of cool. Okay. Let's get into the news cycle. The interesting things. So first and foremost, I just want to point out, we're going to look at C-17 traffic, but I want to show you the article first. Then when we get into C-17, you'll see what I'm talking about. U.S. says they will complete the troop pullout from Niger in early August. Remember, in Niger, we actually have the Russians, which is the Wagner group, as well as the Russian military and U.S. military on the same base. Blows your mind that they're actually that close, and how they just interact without things sparking up. I don't know. I'm sure it's got to be tense, and I'm sure there are probably some standing orders of military for personnel, of what they can and cannot do. Okay, but talk C-17 for a second, and you're going to see that broken trace headed down into Niger. All right. So we know they're already starting to move and pull people out. They throw this out here in August because it's probably taking place now, quite frankly. They're starting to pull them out. The very last ones will come out by August. But it's a data point for you. As you look at that, notice the traffic going in and out of the Middle East, all focusing back into Ramstein. Ramstein is the central hub inside of Europe in terms of everything being pushed through. Immigrants, military assets, all of it, okay? And then you just see a flurry of activity. Now, the interesting piece is when you get to the United States, you're going to notice that it starts to really kind of go around the United States. There are some center points in Texas. See this one down into the USVI? I'm telling you, that's where they're headed when things go south. They're going to bail out of D.C. They're going to all go down south, and they're going to be down there sipping their drinks with the little umbrellas, okay? Now, just see, kind of around the United States, but then you got a flurry of activity in the Abilene area. I'm hearing that from locals as well. They said there is a significant uptick. This would indicate that, yes, there is definitely an uptick. What's going on in Abilene, I'm not sure, but it's a data point for you, okay? Okay, let's get back over here to our mini, and we'll get back into the deets. Now, I want to show you something. As I've been pulling together, tracking the Omni piece, but they're owned by a parent company. They also have, a lot of cargo assets for various companies that are buried into that, okay? So just an example, all right, is we're going to go look at the Omni stuff here in a minute when I show you some of the immigration stuff. But this right here, this is kind of interesting in that this is the name of the company that actually owns Omni and all the others. Cargo Aircraft Management, Inc. But just notice I tried to track a flight and it's not available for public tracking. That's because this company works very closely with the DoD, and it works very closely in moving migrants around or illegals into our country. When you heard me say that our southern border is all but gone, and you're going to hear the left try to say that, oh, it is at the lowest level, as you see Bob Marley head down to our southern border, right, for the first time. We're going to talk about that as well. What I'm going to point out is the fact that they're flying them into our country, okay? They're not coming to the southern border in the numbers they were. They don't have to, because they're getting on airplanes and they're coming straight into the interior of our country, bypassing the southern border. Thus, the Canadian border is now our real border. Okay. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and get into the deets of this. So this, if you watched as Flashbang came out and made his speech, what was going on in the Capitol is he is talking all about, all of his, great things that he did for the country and how he's such a patriotic American. Did you notice that he did not really stutter or have the gaffes that he normally has? Just a data point, but I'm telling you, that is not, when I show you the videos, you're going to say, something's up with this, okay? But look at this. While he's speaking and while all this is going on, you've got Benjamin Netanyahu that came into the country, still here. He's going to meet with Flashbang. You'll see that on schedule today. He's meeting with Trump while he's here. But look at this. You had cops being dragged, assaulted, American flags being burned, as they basically, and I'm not going to show the video because it'll get me demonetized here over on the tube. Burning flags. Let me just show you. You see this right here? Oh, look at the color of the hand. That right there, folks, that's going to be some white bread, all right? And I say that because you're not looking at, Muslims that are doing this in our country. Of course, I am guaranteeing they're in the mix on this because I can see a guy right here and a couple guys here that certainly look like they are from that area of the world. But this right here, this is what happens when your colleges go rogue and they start to program your children and burning the American flag. This kid right here, just kick him out of the country as far as I'm concerned. Huge disgrace to our country. But this, what I don't see? He's probably Antifa, whatever it may be. If you look at the videos of the folks that are showing in the video, you'll notice that they are very Antifa-ish. And what I don't see are a lot of BLM guys showing up. Okay. And, I'm just going to point all that out. This is just, again, data point for you. It's a disgrace, but let me just say this. If these red shirts right here were MAGA shirts, you'd have J6 2.0 on your hands and, they would be rounding all of us up, right? You'd have the FBI out scouring the United States. These people have come in to the Capitol, parked themselves in the middle of it. No different than what happened in J6. All right. And they're allowing it. All right. So you got hundreds. They arrested them. Sure. They'll all be released. And nothing else will be done to them. Okay. But again, if these were red MAGA shirts, it'd be a totally different story. All right. Double standard. You will find that, like I said in the last SITREP, the illegals are made of Teflon. And if any of these are illegals, nothing. They'll be released and dismissed. These are all a bunch of anti-American And speaking of that anti-American stuff, here is Flashbang. Let's talk a little bit about some of the stuff going on here. You'll see he is meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu this afternoon. And they're going to talk about the American families and the hostages, or actually meeting with American families about the hostages, assuming they're still alive. I don't think they are, but all right, there's that aspect. Now, I want to show you, here are the traffic, and we talk about the cargo company that Omni is part of. Just look at the traffic patterns all over the United States. The key is when you start to get down here to Brownsville, the border, etc. Notice where they go. They're going into the interior. So they're being nice, picking some folks up that made the walk. Get down into Central America, South America. You'll just see a very, very active, has been since Swift Air lost the contract and went bankrupt. You see it in and out of Haiti. All right. And I just showed you a couple sit reps ago that we had 20,000 Haitians pushed into Ohio and then into Europe, in and out of Iceland. This is, again, they serve many masters. This isn't just Omni, it's several other, but Omni is a big piece of this, okay? And then into the Middle East. Why? Because they're picking up illegals and they're flying them back to our country, okay? All right. And the reason you see this stuff happening here in the United States is because, well, that's not the stuff. This is the stuff. The reason you see that is because they're bringing 2,000 Muslims a month from Afghanistan into Fort Dix, into the Welcoming Center. They've been doing it since we bailed out of Afghanistan. It hasn't changed. Still going on. Okay. All right. Now let me just, we talked about Flashbang. I want to show you some videos here real fast, just because it is going to be a data point for you on the Flashbang piece. Okay. First and foremost, I'll come back to this. Let me just say that's not the one. Here we go. All right. Now, watch him as he goes up the steps coming out of Vegas. All right. Or sorry, departing Delaware. Now, this isn't the Vegas piece. This is the Delaware piece. He's headed back to D.C. Watch how smooth he is up the steps. Just boop, 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 boop. Heads right up. All right. And he's going to turn around and give the Nixon wave. I'm not a crook. Right. Also notice the forehead looks a little bulgy. Okay. All right. That's the first piece. Now you see how he was going up the stairs. No problem. Top set of steps. Okay. Now let me show you Vegas. All right. He comes out. You can see this guy kind of barely. Now watch him struggle going up the steps. Now you can say, he had COVID. No, actually he tested negative for it. So they tried to say the COVID story, but look at this. As he goes up the lower steps, struggling. He gets to the top there and he's gassed. Right? You see the difference? Yeah, he leaves Delaware and you see him just bebopping. Now, why was he in Vegas? That's a good question. I showed you this in the last SITREP as well. Deadline passed for the 4th Friday in June. So maybe he's in Vegas to see if he can't get this thing snapped back into check and get that whole ballot issue taken care of. Because when he backs out, the only thing that removes him from this issue in Vegas is death. All right. 25th ain't going to do it. So he's got a problem there. All right. Now, you remember I've shown you this several times. Okay. And let me just hit my.
Where there's a fundamental disagreement we have based on a moral principle, I'll develop some disease and say I have to resign.
Did you hear that? I've shown it several times. I'll develop some disease and say I'll resign. Now, I've shown you the walks, all right? I've shown you that little bulge on the forehead. Either one of two things is going on here, all right? He is either, that was all an act, right? Because if you listen to his speech that he makes after he's come out of, his home in Delaware, goes back to D.C., comes out, makes his little speech, no gaffes, all right? Either he is acting or somebody is acting on his behalf. Something definitely is amiss here, all right? Signature is not right. I've shown you all of that. All right, I'm just going to put it out there for you. Again, data point. You guys can decide for yourselves. Okay, look at this piece right here. We're going to get through these stories pretty quickly. Look at this. ActBlue accused of a massive money laundering operation as Trump files an FEC complaint. Nothing will be done over the $91 million transfer from Biden's campaign stuff to Kamala's. And yeah, they'll get away with it. It's nothing will ever happen. Teflon, folks, Teflon. You got the deep state in play right now. All right. Now, look at this piece. As again, it's just a photo op. Pay no attention to it. It's her. Look, she was the border czar. Never been down there. She was told to go down, take care of the border. Why is she headed down there right now? Because this is going to be one of her talking points that record low, everything's good. It's all sunshine and puppy dogs and rainbows. Look, first trip since she's been a czar for the last 4 years. Okay. First trip. That tells you all you need to know. It's a joke. All right. Now, we were talking about the fact that we've got sniffers, nuke sniffers headed down here. All right. I showed you we had exercises going on this way. This looks to be a missile box and some additional boxes here as well. So this area seems to be really heating up in terms of U.S. military exercises. It's posturing, probably because the Russians are down here in South America. Right, came out of Cuba, they headed that direction. And so we are probably just trying to show a little muscle. All right. It's a whole cat and mouse thing, as we've been talking about. Again, I showed you a lot of fighter flights out here as well. They watch this area very closely because they're worried about the Chinese and Russians getting down in this area. They're already there, but they're trying to watch them. Okay. Let me get over here to Europe, and I don't see anything else that really catches my eye. Okay. Well, let's move on. All right, look at this. Pentagon's new Arctic strategy aims to counter the China-Russia partnership. Yeah, they're just trying to show some type of command presence because China and Russia are working heavily in that region right now. And so they're just putting a U.S. presence in just to try to deter them. All right, cat and mouse again. All right. Speaking of cat and mouse, let's go over here. And let me just hide this. And I want to show you this that came out just a day ago. All right. British Boeing RC-135. So that's going to be one of your, the R-135s we've been showing. Okay. You'll notice. So when we get to the R-135s, or we got to that, the fact was that they were not showing this particular flight. So they were transponders off. European Typhoon. So they had fighter escorts as they headed out over the Black Sea. But guess what? This is why the whole cat and mouse thing is going to actually potentially escalate, because they fly out with an R-135. They got 2 escorts over the area, but then guess what happens? Yeah, you got some Su-27 Russian birds that come in and intercept them. So, like I said, all it's going to take is somebody with an itchy trigger finger, and it's going to be game on like Donkey Kong. All right. So again, data point for you. But this is the cat and mouse been going on. We saw it with the B-52s. So they continue to do it. We keep pushing and poking each other, right? Okay, now this Fort Biggs, big thing here. Again, helo uptick, significant uptick. I do see an interesting flight coming in, Eastern Airlines from China Lake, right? That's Area 51 out there, folks, all right? So what were they doing? And why did they come to El Paso? I don't know. It could have been a deadhead flight out, but then you see them here in El Paso, Fort Biggs, picking up probably illegals, taking them up here to the Cincinnati location, which is what they've been doing for a while. Then you got the Gleck stuff. This is going to be intel flights, right? This is going to be third-party intel operating out of Fort Biggs. Okay, then we go over here. This is going to be Dover. I just want to point out the 747 showing back up on the board. And then you can see one headed to Israel, the other headed to Ramstein. And looks like another one en route going to Ramstein. All right. Then we talk Ramstein. You can see the 747 starting to show up. You see some more crew out of Cairo, 767-300. I don't know that that's troops, actually, because it is Ramstein. More than likely, that picked up some illegals, brought them in. They'll be processed, and then they'll come out on either charter flights or just direct, military stuff and also commercial flights. They fly them into New York, etc., Fort Dix. All right, and then you can see, again, 747s departing that location. All right, camber flights, just 2 up. Look at this one. Why is the U.S. military in Mexico City headed down to Panama? Good question. That's a camber. U.S. Transportation Command. And then you got one leaving Ramstein. Keep moving on. And then this can be your British camber variant. And you'll just see that it looks like they're coming out of Glasgow, Scotland, out of the UK, headed down towards the Med and into Europe. And then this one, RZE Poland. I'm just looking to see if anything catches my eye. I'm not seeing too much. I did see an Antonov in. I see German Air Force up here out of Berlin. And then that looks to be headed back to Germany. But I'm not seeing one Atlas Air leaving to Hong Kong from there. That'll just fly straight over everything. There's your AN-124 Antonov that came in. So very quiet again on that front. Now, check this out. We talked about the whole cat and mouse piece. Chinese H-6 missile carrier jets appear for the first time off of Alaska. One thing I want to point out is you may notice how this aircraft looks very, very similar to the B-1. All right, it doesn't have the swept wings on it, but the Russians and the Chinese have very similar aircraft. Not a coincidence. Okay. But this thing, first time it's been out there along with one of the, or actually a pair of the Tu-95 Bear bombers. If you're familiar with that, that's what this looks like. It's an old platform, probably older than the B-52. It's been around quite a while. It's definitely in the same airframe aging scenario as the B-52. But you'll see these, we got the bombers for the B-52s out there. So this is just nonstop cat and mouse back and forth like I just showed you out over the Black Sea. But this is up towards Alaska. Then we've had it happen up towards the Barents Sea, all over the place. So, all right, look at this. NATO allies scramble F-16s after a Russian drone crosses the border. And yeah, again, here we go. This happened Tuesday, Wednesday. Russian military carried out a new series of drone attacks in Ukraine near the border of Romania. Evidently, they breached the border, and we scrambled F-16s. Not familiar with F-16s, the Fighting Falcons made by Lockheed Martin. And it is also an older platform, and but this is just give you an idea what the aircraft or the fighter looks like. And then over here, this is why you never go near your windows when you're in Russia. Not that I've ever been there or anybody goes there, but they just have a tendency to fall out of windows. Happens quite frequently in Russia. And it's, you know, I don't know. It just blows you away. But a top Russian economist dies after falling out a window. We see it over and over again. When the KGB knocks, you need to make sure your window is closed and locked. All right, moving on. Now, this, I just want to point this out because we've heard so many different claims about this being you know, the fact checks doesn't exist. They weren't there and they never were there. You can go through it. You can see here, I talked about this in one of the recent SITREPs as well. All of the stuff that was happening in the Ukraine has been shifted. They've taken all those resources. They've moved them over to Africa. That'll be the new location for most of this. But you can go through and you can see all the different false, you know, we fact checked it. This is all false. Those labs were never in Ukraine. It's all, you know, QAnon conspiracy theory stuff. All right. And this here, again, it's all false. Dismisses claims. All right. Sure. Okay. You can see how all of this stuff gets, you can just see it. If you go and try and search it, you got to go through a sea of stuff that tells you it's all fake. But then you go over here to the U.S. Embassy website, and this is interesting. It's at a level 4, do not travel. So they don't want you going to Ukraine, just FYI, unless you're, you know, yeah, never mind. But here we go. Look at this. The Biological Threat Reduction Program. All right. So they tell you about it right here. They tell you this. They go into, I'm not going to go into all the details because I just want to point out that all of the fact-based stuff clearly just disregards the fact that, listen, you can't reduce them if they're not there. Okay. All right, let's talk Constanta, and that just went black. But Constanta has been very active lately, very, very active. And just in the last 2 weeks, we see a significant uptick here. So they are very likely moving a lot of stuff into the Constanta area. We know that's a very large base that's being put in. And oh, by the way, that is the Black Sea, and that is Crimea. That's Russia, all right, Ukraine here. And then we go to national cargo, and you can just see some of the flights headed into. This is JFK to Tel Aviv, and then another one looks to be coming from Anchorage into Alaska. Well, no, I don't know where. That's kind of interesting up here. I'm going to click on that just because I think that's Alaska still. But let me see if it just went from point A to B or where that actually went to. Oh, that didn't help me at all. All right. Well, let me back it up, and I don't need 747s. I need that one. So let's just give this a quick gander. And Malaysia. Okay, so it was headed up to Malaysia. Didn't recognize this name. All right. And then last one, this is just a look at this coming out of Fort Hood. I refuse to call it that. Headed into Phoenix. I don't know what that's all about, but that is also going to be a national cargo flight. Troops, maybe. Headed to Phoenix, I thought was very interesting. So, all right. Well, listen, that's going to do it for SITREP today. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your Thursday. We'll see you over the weekend on Patreon with our Under the Radar and Monkey Minute. So you guys be safe out there. Keep that powder dry. And remember, fight, folks. We and our life depends on it. Stay frosty. God bless. Monkey out.
In the heat of the moment, precision and excellence are paramount. It's a creed we live by, both in service and beyond. Our beans are sourced from the finest regions, roasted with perfection, and packed with care. Whether you prefer whole beans or ground coffee, Operator Espresso delivers a cup that's unmatched. Whether you're sharing stories with fellow veterans or gearing up for a demanding day, Operator Espresso is there to fuel your mission. Operator Espresso is more than just coffee. It's a tribute to excellence. Join us in our mission. Experience the difference. Taste the honor.